Hello, my name's Andrew Durham and I'm here to talk about my new book, Asian Hornet, the Beekeeper's Guide to Defences Against the Yellow-Legged Hornet Vespa Velutina, which was published by Northern Bee Books. You may have read my articles in the BBK News or on the BBKA website. Perhaps you have listened to my talks during the Asian Hornet Conference and Asian Hornet Weeks, but it wasn't possible to include all the necessary detail in articles or talks, and so I've put that detail into a book. The Hornet arrived in France in 2004, and it spread right across France, into Spain and Portugal, across into Italy, and it's now in Belgium and in Holland, and it's still expanding. In France, it is responsible for 30% of honeybee colony losses in affected areas, and it is now looking as though it has a foothold in Kent, Sussex and Hampshire. If it's not eradicated, it could spread very quickly. I started my research into the hornet in 2014, and it's taken me across France, where they've been dealing with the hornet for over 20 years. And that's where the information in this book comes from. French beekeepers, their national associations and their bee health groups. The scientific reports that I've drawn on are predominantly French, although in more recent years there's been a lot of very useful research done in Spain. I'm looking at the impact of the hornet on beekeeping, not just from the experience of individual beekeepers, but from the perspective of hundreds of beekeepers, in fact thousands of beekeepers. My information comes from a very wide range of authoritative sources. For example, this report comes from the whole region of the Aquitaine, and it calls on reports by some 1,400 beekeepers, and that's just one of the regions that I've been to as part of my research. This book is written by me as a beekeeper. It's in plain language. It gives all the practical information that a beekeeper needs if the hornet starts to establish itself in the UK. It goes to a much deeper level on defences and management of the bees than any other book on the subject. In my guide, my focus is on how best the beekeeper can defend their bees. I've concentrated on the defences adopted by the French national beekeeping associations, something which other authors skip over in a few pages. What's more, and unlike other authors, I have brought those defences back to this country and I've put them on my hives to see how my bees adapt to them and how they stand up, how the defences stand up in our English climate. I also wanted to see which are best for my bees from a beekeeping perspective. I give a detailed explanation of how the defences are best deployed. And in fact, when it comes to the very effective harp electrique or electric harp, I now have 5 of them. I've built 3 of them myself, and I document the process of building them in an annex at the end of the book. Whereas most ecologists are firmly against spring trapping of foundress queens, I look at it from both sides of the argument because the French national beekeeping associations are very much in favour of it, and for a very good reason. In the book, I examine nest destruction schemes in France to assess whether they work and the resources required to operate them. I've looked at the beekeeper's role in nest destruction and track and trace. You might want to read this before setting up your own schemes in this country. I go into detail on the interaction between the hornet and the honeybee because it is the hidden effects of the hornet's predation that do the most damage, and it is those that need the beekeeper's careful attention. I have included research from Spain and China on the hornet's threat to human health, something that needs to be reviewed in this country. And I've also detailed the rift between scientists and beekeepers in France because we don't want that rift happening here. But I can already see scientists taking over the narrative and influencing what beekeepers can do in the UK. If you are a beekeeper who wants to defend their bees, then not only is Asian Hornet, the Beekeeper's Guide to Defences Against the Yellow-Legged Hornet Vespa Velutina, the book for you, I would suggest that it's essential reading if you want to avoid losing colonies, especially in the early stages of the hornet's predation. Thank you for listening.